Joining us now with more on the political risk this week is Annmarie Hordern, Bloomberg's chief political correspondent and co-host of Bloomberg Surveillance. So it's going to be something everyone will want to tune in for, although it's past our bedtimes, and I would think past theirs as well. Do they make that 9 p.m. start so that people on the West Coast can still watch it at a decent time?
I think so. Also, it's prime time. But I think you're alluding to the fact that it's the first time in U.S. history that the two major candidates for the major political parties are the oldest we've ever seen. So there's a lot of firsts in this debate. Also, the fact
they were the oldest last time, too.
Also, for the fact that this is the first presidential debate that's this early on in the cycle. So this is really going to kickstart all the noise we're going to hear and trying to separate, at least from a market's perspective, what Terry Haynes was talking about there, some of the rhetoric from the policy as we gear up for November 2025.
So what will we see in terms of the major differences? Because a lot of the policies that President Biden has pushed forward, I think of the most recent tariffs, right, or trying to bring production, manufacturing back to the U.S. have been a continuation almost of Trump policies.
Yes, there are some policies where we have seen this administration continue on from what we saw from Trump, basically a handoff when it comes to things like tariffs, or we've seen this administration actually take a step forward when it comes to export controls on China and when it comes to tariffs. We just had the release of e-tariffs of Chinese imports coming in, EV imports coming to the United States, 100% on those tariffs now. So you'll hear a lot of the same rhetoric potentially on China, but there will be vast differences when it comes to things like inflation, at least from the noise. Former President Trump is really going to want to paint Biden as destroying the U.S. consumer when it comes to inflation. Over the weekend, he pulled out this prop, which you're not going to be able to do at the CNN debate, of a little miniature TikTok and saying this is what it's like living under Bidenomics. And he said he's going to have Maganomics on day one. So he's trying to really tap into what we see in polls, this concern over the economy and inflation. And for Biden, I think one key thing that's likely going to come up, and he put out a new TV ad today about it, is abortion. Today marks 2 years since the Supreme Court decided to strike down Roe v. Wade, and this is something that the Democratic Party really wants to try to instill this concern, especially for women and especially in those swing states.
But at the end of the day, for most voters, it's all about the economy. It's all about taxes, what they actually have to pay out of their pockets, right? How will they differ in that term, in that sense?
Well, when it comes to the economy, this still remains to be the number one issue, and inflation still remains to be the number one issue when you ask people their concerns about the economy. And this is something the Biden camp has been trying to explain. Maybe the PCE deflator on Friday will help them. But it's really the issue with the inflation is it's hard to explain that the rate inflation is coming down. People want to see prices come down, and that's not going to happen. Biden is going to come out and call for an increase, likely, he'll say this in the debate, on taxes of those in the millionaire class or the 1%ers, and also raising of corporate tax rate. Trump is going to do the opposite. He wants more tax cuts. 2025, Wall Street Journal editorial is a great op-ed today, actually taking a quote from what Senator Warren told Bloomberg, which is 2025 is tax Armageddon. Tax policy is going to be huge next year because this is when the Trump-era tax cuts, there's a decision that Congress needs to make whether or not they're going to continue them or not. But Biden has said he will not increase taxes on anyone that's making less than $400,000 a year. But these are some of the policy rhetoric we're going to be on lookout for.
Right. The state and local tax deduction is supposed to sunset in 2025. So that's an important issue.
I know you're looking forward to SALT.
Well, I think, a lot of people are paying more taxes because of that, certainly in New York. Immigration is still a big issue as well, right? And we saw a flood of immigration throughout the Biden presidency. He didn't really try to make any changes until the last few months. How is he going to win on that issue? Well,
he's going to try to talk about the fact that he thinks what Trump wants to do in terms of immigration. Trump has even talked about deportations. He's going to try to paint that as inhumane. And he wants to remind Americans of potentially some of the rhetoric that unnerves some of the middle of America when it comes to Trump's policies. But what's going to be difficult about this debate is that, of course, it's going to be a lot of noise. You're going to have to really sift through to try to get the policy differences.